G'day everyone, Lauren Kress here, and welcome to another episode of the Cheat Sheets. I'm really genuinely excited to share today's video with you. I am always excited to share videos with you, but I'm really excited about today's one because it involves a special collaboration with a new special friend of mine, Jo Chastney. I will be linking Jo's YouTube channel in the description below. And Jo and I today will be sharing a chat with you about what it's like being non-binary, what that means to us. Both of us are non-binary people. And we started talking a couple of months ago, and we started talking about how there's actually not a lot of conversations that you see between two non-binary people about their experiences, about the challenges they've faced, about things that maybe they also really enjoy about being non-binary, how they figured that out, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to be delving into part one of a two-part conversation here today on my channel. Jo was kind enough to let me share part one because I was so excited. And I think it will be 1 or 2 weeks' time, Jo will be sharing part two over on their channel. So like I said, I'll be linking Jo's channel below. Once that video is up, I will also put a link directly to that video for you to go and watch that as well. And if you enjoyed this experiment, Jo and I would both really like to know, because I think for us, we're at a point where we're kind of like, is this something that people want to know more about? Are there more videos we could share with you about different ideas, discussions, questions that you might have? So please let us know in the comments. One thing I'll ask, as I always do, please remember to be respectful of myself and Jo as human beings, and to everyone else who is watching and commenting. We're all humans, and I want this to be a place that everyone feels safe, heard, and loved. So without further ado, let's get on to part one of this discussion. Enjoy. Cool. Do you want to ask the first question? Do you want me to ask the first question? What's your preference?
I don't know. I'm going to ask you the first question because that's what that I just.
All right, let's go.
I'm going to ask you. Right. How did you know that you were non-binary? And then a follow-up. What does that mean to you?
Okay, so the first part of this question I feel like is hard for me because I think at a very young age, I sort of put a little part of myself away, and I don't know if people watching can relate to this, but I think I sort of had this instinct that, maybe there's a part of me that is not going to be accepted, or, this isn't okay. So I'm just going to hide, I'm a kid, so I'm not sort of thinking about it consciously or anything. And then I think for a long time, up until I was about 30, 31, kind of just went along with playing the game. That's what I like to think of with the gender binary. It's almost like you're playing this game. It doesn't matter what I want to do. What am I expected to do? And logically, I completely knew that I didn't want to live up to anyone's expectations. But I think it was just sort of this, to feel safe. I think I just, lived as a woman or as a girl and then a woman for a very long time. I think I knew I was non-binary when I kind of showed up in my own life. It's how I like to talk about it, where I was about 31 and I went through this big sort of change in my life. I realized I was gay, which was something my sexuality was something I couldn't figure out, and my sexual orientation was something I couldn't figure out for a long time. And it kind of happened almost overnight. I was like, hey, I'm here now. I'm going to take care of you. And then from there, I was like, oh yeah, I'm not a woman. That label does absolutely not work for me. So in terms of what it means for me, or means to me, I've thought about this a lot, and I think, again, it's sort of just almost like stepping away from the game. It's going, this is not a game I want to play. This does not work for me. You hear these stories about people really feeling cisgendered people who really describe, these two things line up. And I'm like, that's not how I feel. So I haven't got a definition for that part, but just to say, like, I
Mm.
don't feel like what a man is or what a woman is, those labels just don't fit. And I feel like the expanse of being non-binary is much broader, and it just
Mm.
allows me to not put limitations on myself. Like, this
Yeah.
is, this is who I am. I don't have to live up to a social construct or ideology.
Yeah.
That was very long-winded. Sorry, Jeff.
That's fine. I mean, I think it is. I mean, it's not. I don't think the answer is normally like, "Oh yeah, I just woke up and that was just it." Like,
Ta-da!
yeah, like yeah, this is me. Boom. Yeah, I think it is always going to be a little bit of a story and everything. But I'm interested to know. When you said yeah, maybe 31, but was
Mm,
there like a specific thing, a specific
mm.
person, or anything that kind of either triggered those thoughts, or was it literally just like, I want to listen to something that's been inside of me for a long time?
So I think there was questioning for me for quite a long time before that, and I think it was when I started seeing people using they them pronouns, actually. And if I'm really honest, and I hope this doesn't offend anyone watching, when I first saw that, my reaction was actually a little bit like, oh, I don't but I don't really feel like any pronoun. Like, so does that mean I have to? I felt like a resistance to that, if that makes
Mm,
sense. I wasn't offended by anyone else using those pronouns, but I then felt like, hang on, I don't want to have to put she, her pronouns down. That was the
mm,
first sort of like little click for me, because like growing up, and I imagine this is the same for you in the UK, right? Like, no one ever wrote down their pronouns. Like, it wasn't on people's LinkedIn profiles, it wasn't on people's social media profiles. It was sort of just assumed you're either she, her, or he, him. And the time I would use singular they would be more like if I didn't know someone's gender. That was how I was
yeah.
used to it. So when I saw it, it was like this discomfort, because I was like, hang on, now there's this field that I need to fill in, and I don't want to put she, her down. And I don't want to put he, him down.
Yeah.
And that
You're
was
like, yeah,
that was it.
that might be a good option then.
Yeah, yeah. So it was literally like, hang on, what's that about? And then I started sort of thinking about, you know, the times that people had said, like, you're a woman or you're a girl, and it never really sat with me well. And so there were
Mm,
just then I started sort of piecing together those clues and being like, hang on, why is that so uncomfortable? So it was almost like getting comfortable with being uncomfortable with some of those questions. But
mm,
the sort of, I think, a really big catalyst for me was when I had my first, I would say, like, real relationship with a woman. And I felt like, for me, a different side of me really showed up in that relationship, not in terms of roles, but like in terms of how I sexually express myself, in terms of how I engage with that person affectionately. It felt like I was like feeling this sense of desire or this energy that had sort of, again, probably just been shut down very, very early on.
mm.
Something that I didn't really look at. So yeah, that was a big catalyst for me.
Right. Thanks for sharing that.
I'm going to ask you a question now.
Okay, yeah.
So mine is kind of similar, and I think it is a really good place to start. For you, when did you figure out that your gender was non-binary, and how did you come to that realization?
Um, so I think that I've probably always known, but not had the terminology or the awareness of that being a thing. Since I was very young, probably too young to understand, like I'm talking 3, 4 years old, I wanted to wear boys' clothes, play with boys' toys. And I say it like that because like, at the end of the day, it's a toy and they're clothes. They shouldn't really be gendered, but everything was gendered back then. I wasn't doing the typical things that a little girl should be doing, um, without consciously realizing that. It was just what felt good to me. And then the older I got, the more I felt kind of resistance from the outside world. And like when you're younger, you kind of get away with it. Like, oh, it's quite cute that they're in that wearing that sort of stuff. Oh, it's only toys. Like you can play with whatever you want. But then you get to a certain age, it's like, that's enough of this now. You've got to go to a wedding, so you have to wear a dress. You've got to go to school, and this is your uniform. And you slowly get these societal pressures and expectations thrown on you. And then it became harder for me, and then I just felt wrong, and everything just became really uncomfortable. But what we can do at that age is just kind of push it away, to protect yourself, to keep yourself safe, and to try and fit in. So then, all my teenage life, I did all of that. It was a bit of a struggle. I came out with my sexuality, being gay, when I was probably about 17, which I think is actually quite late for me, but because I have always known. But with zero representation or it being talked about, I just didn't know. I didn't know it was a thing and that it was okay. So it was around 17. And then coming out as non-binary was about 5 or 6 years ago. So how old am I now? So I would have been I think it might have been even longer than that.
Hang on.
It's the whole COVID thing. I'm like, okay, it was 5 years or it was 10 years. I don't know. It's been a while. It's been a while. And it was because a skateboarder that I follow came out as non-binary. I think they're actually trans now, but anyway, that's beside the point. That was the first time that I became aware that it was actually a thing. Non-binary. Oh, what's that? Oh. Yeah. What a relief. Like, because I kept thinking, well, maybe I'm trans. I want to be a boy, but I don't want to be a boy. I want to be a man, but I can't. As you say, like, I'm not comfortable with the she, her. I'm not comfortable with the he, him. Somewhere in there is what I am. And non-binary was like, finally. And it's a constant journey of evolution of how it all feels, and I found that it kind of goes like that since coming out as non-binary. I've still kind of had this thoughts of if I am trans, and it's not like you come out and then, for me, it's not anyway. There's still lots of things to process, but for me, it's just not fitting in the binary of the he or the she. So mine was very long-winded too. Don't worry about it.
One of the things that I love, and you mentioned this when we started kind of talking, like, and learning a bit more about each other, was like our stories are quite different, and I love that we get to share that, and like I don't want to take your words away from what you said about it either. For me, it's sort of like I think about it from that. I think it sounds like for you were expressing yourself at such a young age. You were like, I know this is what I want and I'm going to do it. That's what it sounds like from the outside. So correct me if I'm wrong. And then for me, I think it was like almost like, I don't know what I want. I think what I want must be wrong because that's what everyone seems to be saying when I do these things. I remember going through a phase, and I don't even know if I like this word anymore, but at the time it was like, oh, I'm going to be a tomboy, and really like trying to embrace that a little bit and playing with that for a while. Like, and I say playing, like it really was quite fun for me to be like, I'm going to wear this outfit today and I'm only going to do boy things. And then tomorrow I'm only going to do girl things. And I would like swap between the two. Like, and I was like almost like militant about it. I'd be like, Mondays I'm a girl, Tuesdays I'm a tomboy, But it was like, it had to be a tomboy. It couldn't be like, let's just get rid of this whole gender construct altogether. or let's
Mm.
talk about it. It's sort of like, yeah. And I don't know if that was bad or good, but yeah, I just think there's people that come at this from so many different angles, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, yeah, you can know from a very young age. You can come out older. There's so many different ways of being brought up. Depends on your family, it depends on your education, depends on where you live. It's still illegal to be gay in some countries, let alone be non-gender conforming. If you're in one of those countries, yeah, you might not ever come out, and it's just yeah, it's really interesting to speak to people more about it and how their journey has evolved, and how they live their lives.
Mm.
Right, let's go. I suppose they're all quite juicy. So,
Mhm.
what do you do when someone misgenders you? And what would you like in a scenario? What would you kind of say to them?
So, like, it really depends, you know. I think when I first kind of went, these are my pronouns, and you know, I felt very like I've got to, almost, and I don't think there's anything wrong with this, by the way. I'm just like trying to talk through my phases myself. Like I was quite like gung ho about it almost. I was like, yeah, like I'm gonna tell them and I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna, and then, and I'm like, and I totally get that. Like I don't feel like that now, so I kind of laugh at it, but I also get people doing that. I totally understand it, and I'm like, I don't think there's anything wrong with being gung ho about it. But for
Yeah,
me, I feel like now I'm kind of like, I know who I am, and it's kind of not up to anyone else anyway. So I feel a lot more empowered than I used to feel when I would be misgendered. And I also used to have this stress around like, oh, I have to say something. And if I don't say something, I'm not only doing myself a disservice, I'm doing everyone else a disservice. And I have to educate, like I felt really like responsible, like,
yeah,
um, and now I'm kind of like, like I walk into a cafe with my partner and they go, "Hey ladies." And I'm like, really, am I gonna say something? Like, does it matter? Like they're trying to be nice, Um, like do I want to have this conversation for with this person? Like where do I so for me, like if it's just like an encounter with like people in society, I'm like, even if I dress in a way that's quite masculine, I feel like, it could even be like because of my build, like I have relatively large breasts, which I'm not super happy about, but that's the situation I'm in. So I'm like, I think probably people just make that assumption and they're probably trying to be nice. So I just kind of go, yeah, okay, like that's fine. But if I'm going to see someone every day, or if it's like, people close to me, then I'll be like, look, this is who I am. I can tell you what I need, but like obviously I can't force you. So I have people in my life who I'm very close to who refuse to use my pronouns. And I still love and care about them deeply. But that's been really that's a big thing for me to try to process.
mm,
Um, then usually like for people like that are a little bit further, like acquaintances, like work people, um, they'll know my pronouns for the most part. We actually are trying to work on like systems to make it easier as well for people to know, pronouns, and sort of just make it a little bit more comfortable for like people generally in the queer community as well. Um, People try, and sometimes people pull me aside and say, look, like I know these are your pronouns. I'm really sorry in advance if I like don't use them, but please know, like I'm conscious of it, and just feel free to pull me up on it. Like people have been pretty good. I've had other
mm.
workplaces where people just completely disregard it, and I'm like, it's on my email signature, like it's really clear.
Yeah,
So I'm talking about this very like nonchalantly because this has been something I've processed over years. So yeah, again, it's a long-winded one, but for me now, I'm like, most of the time, I don't say anything. Sometimes people who are I guess, especially younger people, I feel like they're kind of a bit more conscious and they might even try to correct other people. And I'm like, it's cool. Like, you don't have, like, it's fine. Like, let's just move on. Most of the time, people go, oh, sorry, they, like, and move on. That's the main sort of misgendering I experience. So,
Mhm.
occasionally I'll have like someone call me sir as well or something if I'm like wearing a sir. That doesn't happen that much. But it has happened. I'm like, I don't I don't think anyone's trying to hurt me. You know, I don't feel like that. I feel quite safe. And
Mm.
I feel really lucky about that. Like I feel like I'm very privileged in that
Yeah.
sense. Not
Yeah.
to just steal the question from you. I'll ask you too, but, the first one I wanna ask you is how about you? Because I think this is such an important topic, and I
Mm.
feel like there's so much more ground to cover than what I've said, so I'm curious about your thoughts as well.
Well, I was like, "Yeah, I feel the same." So I'm just gonna say no, I'm not just gonna say that.
I mean, you
But
can.
it's so yeah, it's so true as well. Like when you first come out, it's like you're like, "I'm gonna be an activist and I'm gonna change the world and try and change the way that people address other people and
Mm,
consider other people's pronouns." And one, it's exhausting.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
mentally, it's exhausting, and we're putting so much pressure on ourselves to actually do that. Like, if I was to correct everyone that misgendered me, it would drive me mad because it
mm,
happens quite a lot. I interact with a lot of people on a daily basis with tattooing. So I see a lot of
yeah.
people, some of them I see again, some of them just come in and they might not know that I'm actually non binary, even though it is plastered everywhere. So
It's like all the
I'm
more.
like, "How did you find me? How did you find me if you don't know? Like, what?" Yeah. Anyway, that's beside the point. Um, so I think to start with, I was the same in that I wanted to correct everyone. I felt bad if I didn't say anything. I'm like, I'm
Mm,
letting the team down. I'm
yeah,
letting myself down. I'm not standing up for myself. And you can just beat yourself up. And that does nothing to my confidence. I'm trying to build confidence all the time because it's hard to have confidence in a world that, perhaps doesn't celebrate us
mm,
particularly.
mm,
So the last thing that I think we need is us to beat up ourselves as well and take on that responsibility for everyone, for ourselves, and just it's hard. So I agree in that we don't have to do that. It's not our jobs. And but I think that does take time. I think getting more confident in yourself and not relying on other people to do that. If they get your pronouns correct and just relying on that, like, yes, I am a valid non-binary person because someone
yeah,
has used my pronouns correctly. It's like
yeah,
I'm a non-binary person no matter whatever anyone says or addresses me as. But that takes time. That's not
yeah,
going to be like straight away. So I think we can say that. Um, and as you say, interactions that are just very quick, that you're not going to see that person again, coffee shops, going out, whatever. I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to. And it's usually in a conversation. You're very like, blah, 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 oh, pronoun wrong, and carry on. You're not
mm,
going to go, whoa, 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 just stop.
yeah,
You got my pronouns wrong.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
you don't want to be that person that's just, mm, it's, you let the conversation carry on. If at the end, you think, I don't think they know that I'm non-binary or whatever, that's when I might say something at the end.
mm,
If I know we're going to interact a little bit more, I wouldn't interrupt a conversation. Um, and then, yeah, I would just say, just so you know, you did misgender me. My pronouns are they, them. I understand that it might be difficult to use those, but I would really appreciate it if you tried.
Mm.
And sometimes I've had someone go, "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I did know that." Carried on a conversation and then immediately misgendered me again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I was like, "All right, cool, yeah, we'll just that's fine." But
I
you
think
I don't know
yeah,
I don't
sorry.
know about I don't know about you, but
Mm.
you can tell when some people are trying
Mm.
because when they're speaking to you, they are thinking. So the conversation isn't perhaps as natural as it would normally be because they're like, "Oh god, I've got to be careful about what I say." And but then when they forget it for those like little second, that's when they might misgender you, totally not realise, and then go
Mm.
back into that, "I've got to be careful, I've got to be careful." And that's when I kind of don't mind as much because I know that they're trying. I know it was just like a slip of the tongue, and they perhaps have gendered me correctly in another part of the conversation. So that doesn't really bother me. But yeah, it's like when people show no respect for it whatsoever, they know my pronouns, don't use them. That's when I'm quite happily not see them again. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
fully booked
it's
for 5 years now. Sorry.
it's interesting because yeah, I one of the things that I struggle with, and sorry, I will ask you another question, but you just brought up that thing about conversation. I think is so important. Like one of the things that I almost felt a sense of grief or turmoil over is like I am someone who I'm an extrovert and I really enjoy talking to people, meeting new people, having very sort of tangential discussions, as you can probably tell. I'm like, chim, 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 and I like that flow. And so I, at the beginning, felt like, hang on, I feel like I have to choose between these two things that are really valuable to me. I feel like I have to choose between that genuine connection and, that other person feeling safe or me feeling safe, but then maybe not having as much connection. And I really struggled with that for quite a while where I was like, hang on, like, I feel like I can't have all of these things. I feel like I can't make someone else. And when I say safe, I mean comfortable. Like, I
Yeah,
could see sometimes people would have almost like a bit of fear, like, oh, I don't want to offend you. And I would be like, I don't, I think the way you said that, sorry, you missed it. It was so lovely. Like you clearly were like it's okay. Like it creates a sense of safety. And like you said, you kept the conversation going. But I think
mm,
it's such a great solution to if someone's feeling like that, hang on, but I it's not about trying to make someone feel uncomfortable, but also I shouldn't feel uncomfortable either. And I have ups and downs with that still where I'm like, I've had conversations with people really close to me who will go, look, I'll just try to use your name more because, like, I just don't agree that that's grammatically correct. And
oh, that
I'm
one.
like,
It's not
but like,
grammatically correct.
it is
Oh,
grammatically correct. It's been grammatically correct for hundreds of years. And also, I'm like, even if it wasn't, even though it is, in English, it is grammatically correct. But even if it wasn't, like, what are you trying to achieve, and so those things I think I struggle with a little bit as well because it sort of feels like I'm not as important as grammar, like supposed grammar,
yeah,
you know what
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean? Like it's sort of
yeah,
like, hang on.
totally.
So
Yeah, but it
yeah,
is
it's
correct. My example
yeah,
is you see like a wallet on the street, right? And it's got no ID in it, and you go, "Oh, someone has lost their wallet."
yeah,
It's not multiple people, it's one person's wallet. You don't know what gender they are because there's no ID in it. It's their wallet.
yeah, yeah.
That's the quick answer to that.
I say the same thing, and actually, I think it also plays. It actually is language that should be practiced more in that context. Like, so people will say, "Oh, can you please send my regards to the chef?" Say, for instance, followed by, "He cooked an incredible meal." And it's like, but the chef could be female, the chef could be
Yeah.
non-binary, the chef could be anyone. So
Yeah.
we actually, in the English language, we have this word that helps us to get out of stereotypes. It helps us, it's like beyond the pronouns, actually really useful. And
Yeah.
people often don't opt for it. And it was something I noticed very young, like pretty much as soon as I started reading and writing. I started reading like at 4. Like I loved books. I was very like escape world. Woo! And
Yeah.
I was always like, hang on, like I don't understand why, like in this case, it's a he or a she, because you don't know. Like, and I would be really annoyed that it was assumed to be he. Same with like I was
That
brought up
the
religious.
doctor is a man and that
Yeah,
the
yeah,
hairdresser is a woman or
yeah,
whatever. You're like,
exactly.
why are these roles gendered? You get either. Why is it assumed?
And why is it like
Yeah.
if you can't, you don't wanna say he or she, you just say he, and I was like, "Just say they." Like, I always used to do that in
Yeah.
essays and everything, like, at school, I was like,
Yeah.
"That makes sense to me." But I was even with, like, so I was gonna say I was brought up religious, and, like, everyone's like, "God isn't a man or a woman." So I was like, "So why are we saying he?" I don't understand. Wouldn't it be they? Like, God is a they. Like, if God exists,
Yeah.
God would be a they.
Uh, yes.
Alrighty, so head on over to part 2. If you've just watched this fresh as it's been published, you'll have to wait a little bit. But for the rest of you, it's probably already up, part 2, over on Jo's channel. So go check that out. Check out the link in the video description below. And if you enjoy this video, please give us a thumbs up. Please let us know in the comments. Let us know what else you would like to hear about. And we can always talk about other things as well. It doesn't have to just be about being non-binary. So really, really looking forward to your thoughts on this one, everyone. And until next time, please do take care of yourself. Cheers.